So I want you to think for a second about how you've tried to learn a new skill or, maybe a new language.
Oh, yeah. Usually a painful memory for most of us.
Right. Because was it through staring at these dry, boring textbook drills for hours? Or was it through listening to these really engaging, relatable stories that just kind of happen to teach you something along the way?
Yeah, I think we all know which one actually works better, even if we still buy the textbooks.
Exactly. And welcome to today's deep dive where we are going to get into exactly why that is. So we've got this fascinating piece of source material today.
Mm-hmm.
On the surface, it looks, well, incredibly basic. It's this script that's explicitly designed to teach English to beginners.
Like A1, A2 level, right. So really early stages.
Yeah, exactly. The script is for a show called Luca's English Channel, and this specific lesson is titled Funny Childhood Memories.
Which is such a great hook.
It really is. It features these two characters, Luca and Sophie,
Mm.
and they're basically just swapping stories about their youth, getting into trouble and stuff.
Right, and if you just glance at it, you might totally dismiss it as just lightweight fluff. They talk about life before smartphones, playing outside, making silly mistakes.
Yeah.
It feels less like a strict language lesson and way more like you're just kind of eavesdropping on two friends catching up over coffee.
But our mission for this deep dive is to, go way beneath that charming surface.
Yeah.
We aren't just going to sit here and recount these cute childhood stories from the script.
No, we've got bigger fish to fry.
Right. We want to unpack why this specific approach, using these universally understood, slightly embarrassing childhood mishaps, why that is actually this incredibly powerful framework for language acquisition and memory retention.
Because when you really look at it, nothing in there is by accident.
No, not at all. Okay, let's unpack this by looking at the very first story from the script. So Lucas starts by sharing this physical photo with Sophie. It's him at age 6, and he is just bawling his eyes out.
Oh no. Over what?
He dropped his ice cream.
Ah, a classic tragedy.
Yeah. Exactly. But then he pivots to the real meat of the lesson, which is a story from when he was 7. He tells Sophie that he wanted to look like a superhero.
Oh, I know where this is going.
Yeah, so he took matters into his own hands, grabbed the kitchen scissors, and just completely butchered his own hair.
Naturally, as one does at 7.
Right. And through this story, the script introduces these specific vocabulary words. It introduces naughty, meaning behaving badly, and bangs, meaning the hair on your forehead.
Mm-hmm.
And Luca explains his bangs were cut so short that his mom almost cried, and his friends called him Shorty for a month.
Wow. Brutal.
Yeah, but think about it. It's like this universally shared rite of passage, right? It's like trying to fix a leaky pipe without being a plumber.
Yeah.
As the script points out, kids just all think they're professional barbers.
They really do. And what's fascinating here is the underlying pedagogical strategy. Like, why start a language lesson with misbehavior?
Right, because usually you'd start with, I don't know, colors or numbers.
Exactly. But starting with nutty behavior is brilliant because the concept of being naughty is universal. Every culture has kids doing things they shouldn't.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right. So by tethering a totally foreign vocabulary word, like bangs, to this high emotion, highly visual, and universally understood experience.
The haircut disaster.
Yes, the disaster. The brain just retains that new word so much faster than if you were just reading it off a flashcard. It's cognitive Velcro. You've got the emotional hook, and the new word is the loop.
Wow, cognitive Velcro. I like that. Because, yeah, when I picture a crying 7-year-old standing there with kitchen scissors, I physically can't unsee it.
Exactly. You aren't just learning a translation. You're basically feeling that specific guilt of being a kid with a terrible haircut.
Okay, so that handles vocabulary, but then the script transitions, right? It moves away from indoor haircuts to outdoor physical games, like games played way before the era of smartphones.
Right, moving from static scenes to physical movement.
Yeah, and this brings us to Sophie's story. She says her favorite game was hide and seek, which is another key vocabulary word they teach. And she recounts this time she was hiding in a large empty box in the garden.
A classic hiding spot.
It is, but she was so quiet that everyone actually forgot she was playing.
Oh my gosh.
They all just went inside for dinner, and she ended up actually falling asleep right there in the box.
That is hilarious, but also kind of sad.
Right. But here's my question. It's a hilarious story, sure. But what is the pedagogical value of bringing up a game like hide and seek for adult beginners who are, just trying to learn a language for work or travel?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it's secretly forcing the use of foundational grammar.
Oh, really? How so?
Well, think about physical games. They require spatial awareness and they require action. The source material here is specifically targeting the simple past tense.
Ah, okay. Like I went, that kind of thing.
Exactly. I went, I cut, I hid. For a beginner, memorizing irregular past tense verbs from a table is just brutal. It feels like a punishment.
It totally does. It's
Yeah.
so boring.
Right. But by telling a chronological story about hiding in a box, waiting, being forgotten, and then sleeping, it naturally forces the learner to process those simple past tense structures.
Without it feeling like a grammar drill.
Yes. The brain is predicting what happens next in the story, so the grammatical structure just kind of maps itself seamlessly onto the action.
It's like stealth grammar.
Stealth grammar, exactly.
You're just listening to a funny story about a box and boom, you just learned irregular verbs. Okay, so we've got visual hooks for vocab, spatial movement for grammar, but then they move the timeline to the school environment.
Ah, school. The ultimate testing ground.
Oh, yeah. Luca talks about his first day of school,
Yeah.
and he was so nervous he wore his sweater backwards, which is the next vocab word.
Of course. The tag right in the front.
Yes, and he didn't even notice until lunchtime. And then Sophie jumps in with an absolute classic mistake. She tells Luca about the time she accidentally called her teacher Mom.
Oh no, we have all been there.
We have. She says she turned as red as a tomato. And this introduces the final vocabulary word for this section, which is embarrassing, meaning, making you feel shy.
Right.
But here's where it gets really interesting to me. I kind of want to push back on this concept.
Okay, push back. What's the issue?
Well, think about language learners. They are already incredibly anxious. They are self-conscious about making mistakes. They have accents. They're nervous. Isn't it completely counterintuitive to intentionally focus a whole lesson on the concept of feeling embarrassing?
I see what you mean. Like, why remind them of the fear?
Exactly. Why remind a stressed-out learner about humiliation?
It sounds totally backwards, no pun intended, but it's actually a brilliant psychological trick.
Okay, head out.
Well, there's this thing in linguistics called the affective filter. It's like an invisible wall in your brain. When you're anxious or stressed out, that wall goes up, and it literally blocks new language from being stored in your memory.
Like a fight-or-flight response.
Exactly. Your brain is panicking about conjugating a verb. But by having the guides, Luca and Sophie, model vulnerability and laugh at their own embarrassing moments.
Ah, it brings the wall down.
Yes, it lowers that affective filter. It signals to the listener, hey, we make silly mistakes too, so it is perfectly okay if you mess up your English.
It creates a safe space.
Exactly. An empathetic learning environment where the brain can actually relax and absorb information.
Wow, that is so smart. They're basically using embarrassment to cure the fear of embarrassment.
Which is the only way genuine learning can happen, honestly.
Okay, but none of this works if the delivery is bad. And that brings us to the hidden architecture of this script, the actual language design.
The meta instructions. This is my favorite part.
Yeah, so at the end of the source material, there are these instructions that dictate exactly how this script must be produced. It's not just, hey, read these lines.
No, it's highly engineered.
It explicitly requires controlling the speaking pace. They have to leave these deliberate pauses between sentences so beginners have time to digest the info.
That processing time is crucial.
Right. And it also requires adding natural exclamations, laughter, and conversational filler. Things like, wow, or oh no.
Right, to build that interactivity.
Exactly. I kind of compare to the invisible suspension system of a car.
Oh, I like that.
You don't see the shocks and struts working,
Right.
You just feel a smooth ride. Those natural exclamations, that's the smooth ride. It masks the really heavy educational scaffolding going on underneath. It just feels like you're eavesdropping on friends.
This raises an important question, though. How often do we mistake simple for easy?
Oh, all the time.
Right. Because crafting a dialogue with controlled vocabulary and strategic pauses and manufactured but authentic sounding reactions, that is actually a highly sophisticated form of communication design.
It really is. It takes so much work to sound like you're not doing any work at all.
Exactly. If they just read the vocab list, the listener's cognitive load would max out in 2 minutes. The pauses and the oh wows give the brain a fraction of a second to encode the new word before the next sentence hits.
It's breath. It's literally giving the brain room to breathe.
Right. And doing that without sounding like a robot requires so much empathy for the listener.
So what does this all mean? We started out looking at this simple A1, A2 English script about, lost ice cream, bad haircuts, and backward sweaters.
Very basic stuff.
But we discovered this absolute masterclass in educational psychology. The lesson uses relatable, sensory, vulnerable storytelling to teach vocabulary. Words like naughty, bangs, hide and seek, backwards, embarrassing.
While seamlessly weaving in that simple past tense grammar.
Exactly, and deliberate conversational pacing. And honestly, this matters to you, the listener, even if you aren't learning a new language right now.
Oh, 100%. It applies to everything.
Because whether you are teaching a new skill to a colleague at work or just trying to communicate a really complex idea, vulnerability and storytelling are always the most effective tools to make information stick.
Right. We always want to seem perfect and professional, but perfect puts the wall up.
Yes. Perfect puts the wall up. Messy and human brings the wall down.
A story about falling asleep in a cardboard box says, hey, it's safe to try.
Which leaves me with this final kind of provocative thought for you to ponder on your own today. At the very end of the script, Luca and Sophie do something really cool. They ask their listeners to share one funny thing they did as a child in the comments.
They invite them into the vulnerability.
Exactly. And it makes me think, if our most memorable human moments are the silly mistakes we make, perhaps the goal of learning a new language or attempting anything new shouldn't be to perform it perfectly from day one.
Because perfection is impossible anyway.
Right. Maybe the real goal shouldn't be perfect performance, but rather to just have the courage to dive in and make a memorable, colorful mess.
I love that. A memorable, colorful mess.
That's where the real learning happens. So, embrace the mess, folks. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll see you next time.